This episode of the Bill Simmons Podcast on the Ringer Podcast Network, brought to you, as always, by ZipRecruiter. Having a high sports IQ, very important. You know who's a high sports IQ? Tom Brady. Yeah, 6-time Super Bowl champ. You know what the value of a high sports IQ is? You win 6 Super Bowls like Tom Brady did. Well, when it comes to hiring, you don't need a high hiring IQ. You need ZipRecruiter. So effective. 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. My listeners can try it for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/BS. ZipRecruiter is the smartest way to hire. Meanwhile, spring training is here. Manny Machado is a Padre. We have no idea where Bryce Harper is playing. But that doesn't stop you, or shouldn't stop you, from building a fantasy team around either of them. The Yahoo Fantasy app, the #1 mobile app in fantasy baseball, the official fantasy game of the MLB. Check out the Yahoo Pro Leagues, public leagues. You play for cash. Yahoo handles all the money, no commissioner. Buy in for as little as $20 or as much as $1,000. Build your Yahoo team around these Pantheon-level superstars, stash prospects, whatever you want. Download the Yahoo Fantasy app or sign up now at yahoo.com/fantasy-baseball. We're also brought to you by Belvedere, produced in one of the world's longest-running distilleries. I can't speak. Belvedere vodka is the world's finest all-natural vodka, part of a 600-year Polish vodka-making tradition. Belvedere is made with non-GMO Polish rye, pure water, no additives, recognized for quality, named the ISC World Vodka Producer of the Year in 15, 16, and 17. Enjoy a delicious cocktail with Belvedere vodka today, and remember to always drink responsibly. We're also brought to you by TheRinger.com, the world's greatest website, the Ringer Podcast Network, which has just an incredible number of entertaining podcasts. And let's give a special shout out to the Ringer's YouTube channel, which passed 100,000 subscribers this week. Thanks to everybody who spread the word for us. Apparently, we get like a silver button. They mail it to us, Kyle.
How big is it?
I don't know. And we're going to be fighting over who gets to have it in their office, but I didn't know it was such a big deal to pass 100,000 subscribers. I would have cared more. I would have been plugging the channel. You know how competitive I am. This is great. We are in the 100,000 club, and now the sky's the limit. I'm really proud of the video team and everybody here because we put a lot of work into those videos. I think we've done a lot of cool things with them. So all good. Thanks for spreading the word for us, and thanks to YouTube. Mail us that silver thing already. I'm excited for it. Coming up, we have Mallory, Rubin, and Kevin Clark from The Ringer talking about Antonio Brown's situation, where it's headed, who's trading for him, as well as all the other off-season NFL gossip. And then Chris Ryan comes in. We're going to talk about ESPN's crazy Donaghy piece about Tim Donaghy, the referee, that they did this week, as well as some hot takes for the rest of the season. And then me and Sean Fennessey and Chris Ryan are going to do the 5-year Oscars, which has become a tradition. We wait 5 years, and then we go back to the Oscars from 5 years ago and try to figure out if the right movies and actors and actresses won. So we're going to be doing that with the 2014 Oscars. All of that is coming up. But first, Pearl Jam. The Ringer's Kevin Clark is here. The Ringer's Mallory Rubin is here.
Hello.
Trying to get more sports out of her before she goes into the Thrones quicksand.
Game of Thrones is a sport, I think.
You're not wrong. There's betting for it. We're going to talk we're going to talk Antonio Brown's next team because I think this is important. This is somebody that is top 6 or 7 all-time receiver with a chance to go. Basically has a chance to be the second best receiver of all time if he has 5 more good years.
He's going to be 31 this year.
Yeah. But the kind of body he has, I do feel like he could age pretty well as this decade goes.
Randy Moss was 30 when he joined the 07 Patriots.
Right. So and it already had slippage and stuff. Brown has never really had slippage, and you could argue like the QB, like who the F knows. He's under contract.
2 more years.
His contract jumps, I think, on March 13th. So they basically have a 2-week span to trade him.
But he's already saying that he wants to renegotiate his contract wherever he goes, that he wants guaranteed money. So you have to factor that in.
I don't know if you heard him say how he's made $75 million already. He's very happy to tell people that because fans love hearing stuff like that. First question, because the Colts make the most sense for him, just for like who needs him, who has the assets, who has the cap space. Mm-hmm. Is there any way the Steelers trade him to an AFC team? I say no.
I say no. So they have $107 million in cap space. They are ready to win. As we saw, they were probably the hottest team in the NFL over the second half of the season. Yes. If they hadn't run into a Mahomesian buzzsaw, it's a very different story with them. I think there are cases to be made for, but I think, listen, dude, they just drafted 2 All-Pros last year. I think from a football standpoint, I would take on the risk and say, let's try to win a Super Bowl this year. I just don't know if it fits their risk profile. And from a Steelers perspective, I mean, you're basically handing another AFC team a juggernaut. And I don't think they would do that.
You're souping up your own competition. Unless
you're creating a Super Bowl favorite in your own conference.
We have a Steelers hater in the house, Mallory Rubin.
Proud Steelers hater.
Is there a roadmap where the Steelers say, let's throw away 2019. We don't care. Let's just get the most for him because this is our rebuilding year. If he wants to win a Super Bowl with Indianapolis, knock yourself out.
Well, so the Brown thing doesn't exist in a vacuum, to answer that question, right? He's demanding a trade. They're acknowledging that they're shopping him. They're not. They've announced they're not tagging Bell. No surprise, of course. Right. But so Le'Veon Bell's going to hit the market. The Roethlisberger era is coming to an end. So that's the heart of the offense for this last run of dominance, gone or about to be gone. So sure, maybe they're entering a rebuilding mode, but I don't know if that cancels out the unwillingness to consider an AFC rival. However, then you factor in how hard it's going to be to find the partner they need because they have very little leverage, given that he's been out there saying for all this time, I don't want to be a Steeler anymore, right? The fact that he then came out and said, I want to renegotiate my deal and I want guaranteed money.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
And that the GM, the team has come out and said, we're going to demand like a star load for a star player, right? That's a pretty tough calculus. You can't also then say we're only going to consider 5 teams. That said, I think Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Patriots are probably non-starters.
The Browns would be amazing.
The Browns would be
$78 million in cap space.
The Browns would be a great destination for him.
It's unfortunate. I thought about this.
Yeah.
The 2 sort of fantasy destinations from a football dork perspective are the Browns and the Chiefs, and I don't think they would trade them to either.
I didn't even put the Chiefs on this list because that's you can't trade them to the Chiefs.
They have $25 million in cap space.
Can I ask a question?
He would just be unbelievable in the Chiefs.
Well, I have a nugget on that, but go ahead.
Always count on Clark for a nugget.
I love when Clark has nuggets.
I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but I feel compelled to mention and ask about the domestic incident and the fact that the NFL is currently looking into it, whatever that means, given that it's the NFL. Now, the police are not investigating the incident currently, based on my understanding. Is that right? But does the fact that the NFL is investigating this claim have any bearing on a potential deal, or is the fact that, unfortunately, this is the NFL and terrible things happen?
They came out pretty aggressively after that happened, pointing out some of what they felt like were the factual flaws of the argument. There was no official police report, like all that stuff, right?
I think the fact that this is the NFL, and look, I mean, the Browns just acquired Kareem Hunt.
Well,
right?
yeah.
I mean, it would be naive to the point of absurdity to say that this is something NFL teams would care about, but feel compelled to mention it as a factor in his offseason.
Well, the Chiefs waiving Kareem Hunt, and unless there's nothing to this AB thing, but like then going that way would be a weird move. What was your nugget on the Chiefs?
It was that when I spoke to Brett Veach earlier in the year about Mahomes and how to build an offense around him, he literally said the player he looks at when he's scouting wide receivers is Antonio Brown. Because what you have, he said, you have to put receivers on your board who can extend a play and it's almost like hoops. You have to know exactly where they are. You have to know exactly the chemistry when you're throwing to a guy. And he was like, you look at Antonio Brown, he's the best to ever do it. What they're looking for. So if you're looking for an Antonio Brown type in the draft every single year and Antonio Brown becomes available, maybe it's the kind of thing where you say, you know what, screw it. Let's just give up a second round pick and see what happens. I'm not saying that's going to happen. Again, they'll have $25 million in cap space. They're going to tag D Ford. I'm just saying if you want to go all in on a rookie contract,
hold your noses for this next point.
Oh boy.
He's the perfect Patriot. This is like
How many minutes into the pod are we? About 5, 6?
About 5.
Six.
I,
About
in
5.
my own personal
Yeah.
over-under, had 3.5 minutes for Bill.
I thought that was going to be the
Patriots.
first question.
Yeah.
Did you ask?
I am,
I
I
just
am
think-
frankly stunned by your
I
restraint.
think there's a 0% chance they would ever trade him to the Patriots, but you're
They
talking about 2
tried.
decades of Brady.
Mhm.
This is the ultimate type of receiver that he succeeds with. He's had Troy Brown in 2001 was 75% what AB is.
Mhm.
Deion Branch was a bargain basement AB. The Welker, what he has with Edelman, Antonio Brown's like the best ever version of that.
Yeah.
He'd be unbelievable.
So there's a couple of things. Number one is that Antonio Brown led the NFL, was third in the NFL last year in go route efficiency. So basically his best route is just going right down the field.
Oh, well, that's
And-
bad for Brady.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, I mean, listen, Antonio Brown can cut over the middle of the field as good as anybody. That's kind of the Brett Veach thing. That's kind of the Chiefs thing, is that he can really get open over the middle of the field. But his most efficient route last year was just going straight
But
ahead.
I feel like he's like an unbelievable slot receiver who also has the ability to beat anybody deep. That's what makes
Yeah.
him special, and that's why he's one of the 5 or 6 best ever. He's like if Julian Edelman could also just beat people on a straight line.
Yeah, no, man, then that's what it is. I think at one point, I don't know the final tally on this, but for most of the season, he was leading the NFL in uncatchable balls thrown at him because Roethlisberger was just so inaccurate.
Well, and that's
so
the
I
other
think
thing.
they
If
could
you're-
extend his career.
Yeah, if you're
you just-
getting him, you're getting somebody who
Yep.
was just with a quarterback who I thought underperformed and was really erratic
Right.
and might not give a shit the same way he
Whereas
did 10 years ago.
Tom Brady was just peak performance all season long. Never gave anybody a reason to wonder if he was slowing down.
Kyle, how many Super Bowls do we have?
That'd be 6.
That's right. I can't. I always have trouble. Is it 5, 6, 7?
It's 6
Like
now,
once
yeah.
it gets past 5, it's like you gotta like take a breath and be
Yeah.
like, how many did we win?
If you were eating more strawberries, you'd have a better
6.
memory. But I know you like to
6.
follow the TB12 diet.
6. Yeah, some garlic.
I love this.
The throwing the ball.
I love this
for-
because she gets to make fun of the Patriots, so I can just sit here and take it all in.
You can focus on the Nuggets.
Yeah, I don't have to be the heavy here. You can be the heel.
Here's why I don't think they would go for Antonio Brown, because they've just proven they don't need receivers to win a Super Bowl. They had one, and they had a
my
broken down
God.
tight end and
I
a
have
bunch
to
of
say,
weird running backs, and they
Of
won the Super
all
Bowl.
your insufferable Patriots takes, the
Yeah.
Patriots don't need Antonio Brown is
Yeah,
like
we don't.
one of the most reprehensible.
Well, we don't need him.
I want to talk about this for a second because
Sorry.
I
Sorry for being honest.
when I was in Mobile,
Going 12-4 next year. We'll see you in the Super Bowl.
when I was in Mobile for the Senior Bowl, I saw a GM. And I was talking to him, and I was trying to do a story on how the Rams and the Patriots had the opposite team building philosophy. And I was like, it's crazy. The Patriots have this team building philosophy where they just win on the edges. They never go all in like the Rams do. And the GM looked at me and he said, "Listen to me. Nothing matters except Belichick and Brady. That's all they've proven that over and over again. Nothing matters." And I don't think it's that. But I just kind of think I agree with you. Like
It's
We're
a house
sitting
with
here-
great bones.
we're sitting here and saying, receiver can help this team.
Be great.
The Patriots have proven that if you just have a good coach, a good quarterback, and you're smarter than everybody else, you can win most times.
We had the third best wide receiver of all time in 2007. We did not win the Super Bowl with him during his peak season. I am convinced more than ever that they just benefit from other teams falling apart and doing dumb shit.
Yeah.
And that's like almost part of the Belichick Brady greatness.
They're a casino.
I will say this, though. I watched Inside the NFL and I watched Mic'd Up and I watched all the other NFL Network content where guys had mics during the game. McVay lost that Super Bowl before the game when he went up to Belichick and it was like the Chris Farley show. Did you see that? Hey, Bill, it's such an honor to go against you, man. Man, I just really love what you guys are doing. Belichick's like, I'm trying to win a Super Bowl. Like, could you go away? It was done.
I think
That
McVay
was when
thought
we
he
won.
was going to win. And I think that it was kind of he was trying to do that so that people would see that as a moment of respect and passing of the torch. That was my vibe, what I got from that.
Kevin would never go up to another writer and offer a compliment. He just goes up and says, "I'm going to
opposite.
crush you with my nuggets.
Yeah.
Get out
He
of my
would
way."
sit next to him in the press box and then
Just
try
stare
to
at him?
Yeah, just stare him down. Maybe do some passive aggressive tweet.
I would
Most,
do the
most people
Jim
will
Mc-
go out of the way, but you just wear an extra large
I would do the
wristwatch.
Jim McMahon Rozelle thing. I would just have their name on a headband.
So we haven't mentioned the team where I think he's going.
The 49ers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes the most sense.
$76 million in cap space.
He also
variety
posted
of
an
reasons.
Instagram of himself photoshopped into a 49ers uniform.
He was
which
also in this office
seems notable.
2 weeks ago and talked about how he loves the 49ers.
He's been tweeting at almost everybody
Yeah.
on the 49ers, and they've been tweeting back.
Yes.
So here are the odds.
Sup, I believe, was the Kittle.
49ers.
Subtle.
49ers
Subtle.
plus 350. They're the favorites for the Browns sweepstakes. Steelers also plus 350.
Yeah.
Cowboys are 8-1, which is hilarious. Jets are 10-1. That's kind of the fuck you trade for Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
And we should talk about that.
Yeah.
102
There's an
million cap
amazing
space.
Jets possibility to consider, which is
Both.
Bell and Brown on the Jets.
Because
So
Bell is an obvious jet. Like
100%.
like on the downside, costs a ton of money, isn't exactly at an efficient position. That's classic Jets.
It is really like textbook Jets. Vintage Jets. If they really, the fuck you trades for Brown are number one, Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like,
Absolutely.
enjoy Buffalo. Enjoy the smallest city we have.
Josh Allen connecting on one of
Enjoy
15
Josh
deep
Allen
balls.
as your quarterback. Enjoy getting your ass kicked by the Pats. And enjoy not exactly the most diverse city. There you go. Good luck. That won't be great. The number 2 fuck you city is the Jets.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I think he might like that.
He won't realize it's a fuck you city until we're 8 games in and Sam Darnold has just thrown 5 picks against the Chiefs. And he's like, oh shit, what did I do?
I think that he has a unique ability. There's not many receivers who can make an offense that much better. You know, there were 3. I think he was number 2 in the NFL last year in 30-yard plus touchdowns. Number 1 was Ty Hill. He was tied with Saquon Barkley. If you want more Saquon Barkley
My hero.
Island ammo, there it is.
Love that guy.
But I think that I think that one of the interesting things is that Odell Beckham might be on the market too. And I just
Good.
I know, and
Pass.
what you'd rather have Brown than Beckham?
I wouldn't go near Odell Beckham.
Wait, why?
Why?
I think the chaos that he brings
But
is
how can you-
insurmountable.
But how can you say that
What?
about Beckham and not Brown?
Because Brown's actually been on teams that succeeded. And I think the situation he was in, I can at least
was the success?
understand.
Was it losing to Blake Bortles? Was that
No,
the
he's-
success?
They've won like 10 to 13 games almost every year.
Yeah, but he's
except
never
last
made
year.
a Super Bowl.
No. But whose fault is that?
I don't know. Whose fault is it that the Giants haven't?
Well,
Odell
there's-
Beckham has been operating with a worse quarterback. Eli Manning is just not very good. I don't know if you've checked in on Eli Manning since he beat your team in a Super Bowl, but he's not very good.
He's not very good. I just think the cost is less for
Maybe only
Less
because
for
he's
Brown.
younger and the cap hit
Yeah.
is similar.
Beckham is like, I'm paying a king's ransom for a guy who might be a semi-lunatic. I don't know if I want to do
know.
that.
I think
And I'm also not sure he could stay in the field.
I would make the case that with Odell, the whatever narrative you're either going to opt into or brand is ridiculous. I think Kevin and I are in the this is a ridiculous narrative about Odell camp.
What is?
That he's a distraction and that there's chaos.
There's no
But
such thing as a distraction.
regardless of whether you think that's true or not, I would say that with Odell, it's more predictable in the sense that it's always sort of a piece with the other things that he does. He really cares about winning. He wants to win. And so if there's an outburst or a tirade, it's about how badly he wants to win. What part of the last few months or years of the Antonio Brown experience was predictable?
So that would be
Getting
the rub.
on a elliptical or whatever he was on and doing an Instagram live to talk about the new nickname he wants and his new contract
Mr. Big
demands.
Chest.
I think the Masked Singer was the biggest red flag. And how happy he was to be on that Dancing with
He
the
was
Stars,
so
the red flag.
happy.
The whole thing that happened the last week where he wasn't playing and all that. I agree. He brings his own version of chaos, but I just think his resume is at a whole other level than Odell's.
Okay.
I mean, Brown's like right now probably like the 5th best receiver ever.
Sure, but in 2019, there are better receivers than him. DeAndre Hopkins is probably better than him. I think Odell, on a talent basis, is probably going to have a better 2019.
So
than he
you're
is.
saying you'd rather hitch your wagon to a younger Odell
No.
because you feel like it's an equal level of chaos with
I
either
would,
guy?
I would look at it as how much he's going to cost, similar cap hits the next 2 years. It comes down to what the Giants want to get for him. If you can get Odell Beckham for a first round pick, I would take him.
So if you're the Niners,
That's what
you have
Amari
the-
Cooper costs. And Amari
the-
Cooper's just pretty good.
you have the second
How
pick.
dare you talk about your Slow News Day co-host Amari Cooper that way?
Darnold canceled on Slow News Day.
It's because he's focused
That's what I
on
heard.
building a new
He's
offense.
the new Matt Stafford.
With Bell and Brown.
You have the second pick if you're the Niners. The Steelers have the 20th pick.
Yeah.
The Steelers call you up and they say, let's flip first and you can have AB. Did the Niners do that?
They should.
Yeah.
They should, yeah.
You get to move up 18 spots.
They should.
They have to build an offense around Garoppolo. They have to.
Or Nick Mullins.
This is one of your best takes.
Nick Mullins. Oh, that's
Play action lord.
Nick Mullins over Garoppolo?
No, I'm joking. Nick Mullins with Shanahan over like 10 NFL starting quarterbacks, but not Garoppolo.
Somebody had a take online today that was so in your red hot take wheelhouse.
It was the Tevin Coleman.
Tevin Coleman is a
Coleman
better
over
free agent than
Le'Veon
Le'Veon Bell.
Just-
I
how
feel
about
like
just-
Kevin quietly agrees with that.
I don't.
Oh, I-
Fresh
I
legs.
No.
I think he was jealous of it.
No.
Kevin
jealous
loves
of
fresh
it.
That's
legs.
wrong. It's not about that. It's about never signing a running back at free agent.
Yeah.
That's it. It's just ignore. If a running back is making more than their rookie contract, don't have him on your team.
We just won a Super Bowl with a running back who got the limited amount of yards every time there was a giant hole. Sony Michel, who also can't catch for some reason, had 7 catches in 4 months. Rex Burkhead, who's like, what is he?
James
he
Devlin.
made huge plays in the playoffs. And then James White, who basically didn't even really play. I would agree. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
I want to talk about distraction culture for a second because I just feel like it's so. The Seahawks won a Super Bowl when Super Bowl week they were just punching each other in the face.
Right.
Okay, like has anyone looked into the early '90s Cowboys for some distractions?
Well, on the online era, it's a little different now.
I will bring up that the ultimate distraction of all time was a guy who was murdering people, and he almost won a Super Bowl.
Who is that?
Aaron
Odell
Hernandez.
Beckham? Oh,
Yeah.
Aaron Hernandez? What?
I mean, he was a distraction in the locker room. If anybody's ever been a
Didn't know
distraction,
about the
it's him.
murders.
I mean,
Jesus.
how
This
many
is what they have
crimes
to
have
do,
you
Kyle.
committed
I didn't
in
like
the
that.
locker
Kyle,
room?
this is what they have to do
didn't
after
like that.
6 titles. They got to bring up Hernandez.
He scored the go-ahead touchdown in the Super Bowl, and he had committed at least
Wow.
a long,
Nobody knew at
a
that
long
point.
list of crimes.
Jesus.
Speaking of distractions.
At the very
Yeah.
least,
Distraction culture.
Distractions, not always the player, sometimes the coach.
yes.
How about John Gruden and the Raiders?
Yeah, great
Oh.
one.
I'm going to do the
Great
Sopranos. Oh!
Around $60 million in cap space.
So that is,
This feels right in a lot of ways.
that's 20-1.
This feels right to me in a lot
And
of
that's
ways.
where the Steelers already did business with him with Martavis Bryant.
Right.
So
they
the other
know
one
they need a marketable star heading into the Vegas year, right? A season away from that, but you got to start thinking ahead to that.
He loves star power, doesn't care about distractions.
You can hear him right now at his first press conference. This Antonio Brown.
Jets are 10-1. Packers are 12-1. I'm crossing them off because I just don't think they're going to trade him to a Hall of Fame quarterback and then set up the narrative of Antonio Brown trashing Ben Roethlisberger and is like, now I'm with the real quarterback. They're not doing that.
Yeah.
And then Saints are off the board too. They're for the same reasons.
What about the Cardinals?
Yeah, the Cardinals have a ton of cap space.
Yeah.
It's a good fuck you team. 14-1.
It's a good FU team. I don't understand why, if you're the Cardinals, you'd make that move. I mean, they have a weird identity crisis. They signed Charles Clay yesterday. They've signed 2 of the guys the Falcons.
Are you
have
saying
cut.
they're poorly run because they've just hired a coach and then fired him 9 months later?
and hired a fired college coach?
And hired a fired college coach?
Who would have probably taken the job as offensive coordinator if you'd offered it to him, since
Yeah.
he was a college offensive coordinator.
Definitely easier to win in the NFL than at Texas Tech. Everything will be fine.
And with a quarterback who's worse than either Patrick Mahomes.
Well, so that's the
Yeah.
scenario I want to quickly play out. This fantasy thought experiment that the collective football fandom is engaging in, where they get rid of Josh Rosen, Cliff drafts Kyler Murray, who he has openly said, obviously this was before he took the NFL job, he thinks is a number 1 overall talent. And then they pair Kyler Murray with Antonio Brown. They're already working out together. Antonio Brown's already catching passes from Kyler Murray because they've been working out his Antonio Brown's cousin.
Yeah.
Hollywood Brown, who's also an NFL prospect in this draft class, is
Great
Kyler
name.
Murray's
Incredible
Oklahoma
name.
teammate. They've all been working out
He
together.
Disney also works out with Russell Wilson as well, if I'm not mistaken.
So you think
Antonio Brown.
You think there's a Seattle possibility?
They
here?
took on the guy who was punching people, Percy Harvin. Can't be worse than that.
I'm trying to figure out whether Sean Fennessey or Danny Kelly would process this.
Okay, so
In healthier fashion with the
Seahawks,
Jets or
$52 million
Seahawks.
in cap space.
Mm-hmm.
They had the number one go route receiver last year, Lockett.
Mhm.
So now you just run go routes over and over, 4 verts over and over again. That's a sustainable offense, baby.
I like it. Simplify the offense. Give
Shoddy.
Russell Wilson more time to work on his trivia app so that Roger Sherman can win more money on it.
The best part of it is they get Antonio Brown, they get Tyler Lockett, they still run the ball on the first 2 downs on every single. Brian Schottenheimer just runs the ball up the middle on every single play. And then on 3rd down, they throw a 3rd and 10 heave to Brown or Lockett.
Incredible.
I got to stick up for my Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham point.
Okay, go ahead.
I think he's a level higher.
Okay.
I just do.
He is. I really like Antonio Brown.
I really honestly think if he could just stay healthy for 3 or 4 more years, he would be the second best receiver of all time.
He's not at the level he was in 2015 and 2016. He's a little bit, as far as the efficiency stats, some of those things, he has dipped a little bit in productivity. Brown. I still think he's an elite receiver. I just think that I'd rather have a 26-year-old at the same cap number who has just some of the best athleticism we've ever seen than a 31-year-old. By the way, Antonio Brown, sneaky left-hander. He's another one of your left-handers.
I think Brown cost me a lot less, and I would rather do that. And is potentially better short-term than Beckham is. But I don't have to give up all I would have to give up for Beckham. I don't think the Giants trade Beckham for anything less than 2 firsts. Because now they're kind of stuck in the position they're in. You could get Brown by flipping 20 for 2 potentially. And then you get Brown out of it. Like, to me, that makes much more sense.
Yeah, no, I'd rather have that. I'm not saying that that you should sell the farm to get Odell Beckham. I'm saying that if you were, which one would you rather have on the team? I'd rather have Odell Beckham.
Le'Veon Bell, quickly, where does he go?
Oh, God.
The Jets.
Yeah, there's going to be some.
Right?
It's unfortunate that the Browns are smarter, because it would have been a classic Browns overpay 2 years ago.
Can we say the Browns are smarter when they just brought Kareem Hunt in at the running back position?
It's more. I'm talking
when
more
they had
about,
a running back. That was the thing. It's like Nick Chubb's good.
Yeah,
I had him on my fantasy teams.
Nick Chubb is good.
That guy was good.
Somebody like the Jets. Yeah.
Can I give you the Le'Veon Bell
Bills
odds?
or something?
Yeah.
Do you know who the favorites are?
I'm gonna say the Jets are number 1, and then
They're tied for 1 with another team that has won a Super Bowl this century. That is in the NFC.
is it the
That has a quarterback that Mallory despises for off-field reasons.
what?
That has a fan base that screams ahoy after they score touchdowns. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh. For some reason,
Mallory was trying to figure out
some
of all the
reason-
quarterbacks she
I was like, I hate
despises.
so
No,
many
I thought you were.
quarterbacks.
For some reason, I thought this decade instead of this century.
6-1 for them and the Jets. The Bucks.
That makes sense. You know who's not a good general manager? Tampa Bay's general manager,
Who is that?
Jason Light.
Not good.
No.
Not good at his job.
No, not great.
Ravens are 7-1, Mal. Colts plus 750. So
Colts plus 750.
the Colts are pretty fun for him. But would it have to be a trade, or could he just
No,
sign?
he's
No.
gone.
He's
They're
gone,
not
right?
gonna tag him.
Yeah.
he's
They're not
gonna
going
be
to
a
tag him.
free
He's
agent.
Colts
totally
are pretty
gone.
fun for him.
He doesn't have mileage on him. But he sat out last season. He's had injury problems. He's had suspension problems. It's not like he's Mr. 16 games a year in his past.
I mean, Kevin would just put every running back on the planet on a leper colony. So
I just think that there's just not a lot of guys who make your team better at the running back position.
What would you pay for Nick Foles?
If I was the Jaguars, let's say, I wouldn't go above 14. I'd get sort of the Case Keenum deal. That'd be fine. It'd be fine for me.
So then you'd replace him with Joe Flacco in a year?
I would replace him with Joe Flacco in a year. What was that? What
That's
are we
astonishing.
doing?
Every
What are
day
we
I think
doing?
about it, I feel better about it. I still can't believe it happened.
I thought Roger did a nice job. That piece he wrote about Elway's, the QB stuff about Elway gets credit for the Peyton Manning thing, but that was like a no-brainer. I'm not sure he deserves credit for that. Where it's like all these teams wanted him, and he gave a list of the 3 teams he'd go to, and Denver was one of the teams.
Right.
Well, also,
So I don't know if that goes in the wind.
The runners-up were like the Cardinals and the Titans, and no one has ever accused those teams of being super savvy.
Right.
So the whole thing is very strange. I mean, he lucked out with Peyton Manning, good for him, but he has not made a good quarterback move since. That Peyton Manning team that won Super Bowl was very well built. They had a lot of guys on great contracts. They got some bargains, but since then it hasn't been great.
Where do you want Foles to go? AKA Big Dick Nick. We need in our lives on a good team so we can just make Big Dick Nick jokes.
I think the Jags would be really fun. I could see a Washington pairing if not for the division rivalry factor.
Who's our writer in
our
our NFL Slack who keeps posting the Alex Smith photos where he's wearing like
is it Riley?
The leg. Is it Megan?
Donnie?
I think Megan posted at least one of them.
Where he's out and about on crutches and he has like the cast, but it's like the metal around it. Like
it's like those weird 1920s photos of like weird
really
early
upsetting.
medical devices. And you're like, what
like
the
that
hell
guy's not
is
going to
that?
play again.
It's really upsetting. Yeah, I mean, Washington needs a quarterback. Absolutely. But I don't know.
I think with Foles, you would basically have to mirror whatever the Eagles were doing. You'd have to run the same way. It would have to be a very specific clone of what the Eagles did for him to succeed.
Well, I mean, I think that
there's
there's a lesson to be learned from what the Eagles did. And I think you can build an infrastructure around him very successful. I think that every team should learn what the Eagles did with Nick Foles. Is basically they sat him down. They were like, what are the plays you like to run? And then they took everything else out of the playbook that wasn't that. And I just feel like we sit here and we just overcomplicate these offenses and stuff. And what the Eagles do with Nick Foles is pretty admirable. I think you need talent around him. I don't think he'd be that great with the Jaguars, but I just think that
I'm down on the Jaguars too. Hold on, I'm going to tell you the team I think he should go to.
Is it the Patriots?
Here's the answer for Nick Foles. I don't care where he goes because the Patriots have won 6 Super Bowls. That's my take. Kyle, 6, baby.
How many?
6.
So
all this hatred's making us stronger.
We've seen Foles' hands in big games.
Ooh.
Yeah. So just stick him at tight end with the Patriots, replaces Gronk. He probably has 400 yards.
Is Gronk going to retire in the next 2 weeks?
Well, Rosenhaus came out and said he's thinking about the next couple of weeks. Free agency starts in what, 3 weeks? I
Do you know about the much scrutinized him and Belichick about to walk on the podium? That whole clip, that whole exchange they had.
I'm not
it's
sure.
It's a big deal in the Patriots fan circles.
Patriots Reddit.
It felt a little goodbye-ish.
Was it about again threatening him with a future with the
No,
Detroit
it was basically
Lions
Gronk,
in order to
like,
try to get him to retire?
It was like a thanks for everything kind of. It felt like something you would say on your last day at work. It was upsetting.
What's Gronk's next move? WWE?
WWE.
Are we sure that the guy with the bad back can get body slammed?
I think you use him the way you use Brock Lesnar or how it's somewhere between Lesnar and Rousey, how you're using him like 20 times a year and very carefully. Are we sure he has a bad back still?
Does that ever go away, Mr. Bad Back?
I don't know.
You the bad back guy?
I think like 2/3 of the people in the world have a bad back. Yeah. Kyle probably has a bad back now.
I know, but Tate does.
Tate has a legit bad back. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what Gronk's going to do. I mean, I thought he might retire last year. I just think that he's going to entertain us and stay in our lives probably more than
I think that's one phone call from Brady.
To say stay home?
I think he just wants to be loved. I think he was still a little hurt from the trade. I think he just needs his back rubbed a little bit. I mean, the big issue for the Patriots right now, because we've won 6 Super Bowls, is
God.
Our owner is off the rails. Our owner was at the All-Star game with like a big diamond champions necklace pendant thing. Did you see that?
I did.
Like he's turned into the Rodney Dangerfield back to school character, but like this is just who he is every day. He's going to every party and he acts like he's 30 years old. I was in bed at All-Star weekend before Bob Kraft. How does he do it, Mallory?
I shudder to think. I really shudder to think.
There's never been any. The best moment of my life was when you said her name and not mine at the end of that question. I have no thoughts on this.
You have no thoughts on Bob Kraft at all?
No thoughts on Bob Kraft.
Anything else we're going to cover football-wise? That's it, right? That's all the big stories? No more trades? No more big moves?
Yeah. I mean...
Gearing up for free
Gearing
agency.
up for
we have the combine coming up, so that'll be exciting.
We got Kyler Murray going, but not doing drills.
Right.
I never gave you guys my Kyler Murray take. As you know, I don't follow college football.
I can't wait.
But I still have takes.
Let's hear them.
Too short.
Well, he doesn't get his passes batted down.
Too short.
He can climb the pocket.
Guess what? We were there for Doug Flutie. He was amazing in the 80s. Too short. Incredible talent. We really want it to happen. Too short.
Are the Oakland A's paying you to put this out into the
He's
world?
too short. You can't have a 5'8" quarterback. It's not working. Here's where I come in off common sense mountain and I just land. I'm like, hey guys, Kyler Murray's too short. And then we're done. And then I climb back up and I parachute back up to the top of the mountain.
Can I ask you a question?
With the other people with common sense.
I say this with no malice.
Yeah.
Genuinely just curious. Have you ever watched a single
I saw
Kyler
some
Murray
YouTube.
game?
I saw some YouTube of him.
Of him doing what?
He's played 85% from the pocket last year.
I'm blind out on 5'8" and under quarterbacks. I'm just out.
For what it's worth, he will say he's 5'9", if that makes a difference.
5'9", I'm out too. Flutie was 5'9".
What's your cutoff?
5'9". Because Flutie was incredible. He had a cannon arm.
Yeah.
He was ingenious, and nobody could ever figure out how to terminate a foul. By the way, like 5 teams tried. He was in the league for 13 years.
Including the Patriots.
Twice. You don't understand, when he took over for Tony Eason, that was like one of the underrated great moments in Patriots fan history. Everybody wanted it. It was like, finally, the Messiah is here, Doug Flutie, and it was bad.
So you opt in general to the trend of younger shorter quarterbacks in the league. Obviously, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson,
but
Baker
at some
Mayfield,
point
but you
you're
think
too
this
short.
is too short.
Yeah, I think it seems like I would. How tall is Wilson?
Like 5'11",
5'11", 5'10", like that. Once you're getting to 5'8", that's just tiny. Plus, on top of it, guys falling on him and all the terrible things that can happen.
I don't personally
Durability
worry about
standpoint.
his height just because he is so unbelievably dynamic and gifted. When you watch him, it's like this guy has to be able to succeed. He just seems like he has to be. The body type is more of the thing for me. He's so small.
Yeah.
Like I think he will. I think he should be
hit.
drafted high in the first round, and I think he will be really electric and fun to watch and good. But that is a more reasonable concern to me than the height. I don't know. I mean,
well, this is a very important
he's
point.
unstoppable.
But
I'm still going to root for him, and I hope I'm wrong. I just personally, if my team spent a first-round pick on a 5'8" quarterback, I would fucking go nuts.
I'm going to play devil's
that's
advocate here,
crazy.
though. I just think that if there's any era in which one hit knocking a quarterback out doesn't matter, it's this era where you can't hit quarterbacks. I mean, like he will not get hit. He will get hit less than any quarterback in history because that's what happens when you enter the league at 2019 instead of 2003.
What do you think, Kyle?
I think that's a good point.
Thank
That's
you,
a pretty
Kyle.
good
What
point.
about when
Didn't
he's,
like my Aaron Hernandez point,
No.
but liked my
No,
Kyler
your Aaron
Murray one.
Hernandez point was terrible.
What about when he's running though? When he's scrambling, like not hits that he's taking in the pocket, but when he's just trying to create.
Yeah, I mean, I
plays.
think that he played as Lincoln Riley came out and he told Peter King this week, and he played from the pocket more than anybody thinks. Around 85%, and most of his throws are from there. So I think that there will be times that he leaves the pocket, but I think that's just about him learning to play really, really smart, and he can do that. And if you, again, by the way, if you hit a player outside the pocket,
Right.
you know, when they're out of bounds, that's still a penalty. So it's still, quarterbacks are still very, very coddled.
I'm pro
here-
Kyler.
I'm going to do a 180 on my point, even though I believe in my point. I really hope he makes it because it would be really fun to have a 5'8" quarterback.
I want him.
As
to
you
end
know,
up,
I love weird. I love the quarterback position when there's just a lot of.
Oh, yeah.
It's eclectic. I have this guy and this guy and this tall guy and this little guy and this guy scrambles, and
He's thrilling to
Be great.
watch. Like he's thrilling to
I
watch.
hope he makes it.
I want him on the Giants. I want him and Odell and Saquon on the same offense. That's my fever dream.
If he goes to the Giants,
Mhm.
what position does he play because Eli Manning is all-time starter for them?
Come on. It's time to move on from Eli Manning.
I listen. It was time to move on in 2015, but here we are.
I think we're going to have the
After
what
2016,
happened with
rather.
Joe Flacco last year is what's going to happen with Eli this year if they're smart and invest in a new
All right, here's 10
quarterback.
through 20.
Who's gonna
Denver's
trade?
10.
They're,
Elway's not taking a 5'8" guy. They're
could you
out.
imagine?
Cincinnati's 11. Green Bay 12. No. Miami 13. That's where Danny Kelly had him going in our mock draft. Atlanta 14. No. Washington 15.
I could
fuck,
see that.
You're right.
I-
He is going to go in the 10 to 20 range. Carolina 16. Cleveland 17. Minnesota 18. Tennessee 19. Pittsburgh 20.
I don't know. I'm pro Josh Rosen, but I'm not ruling out this Arizona Cardinals possibility. I'm really not. Cliff Kingsbury is obsessed with Kyler
Why are
Murray.
you pro Josh Rosen?
Chosen Rosen?
Yeah, why? What did you see his rookie year that were you like, I'm pro Josh Rosen?
Well, it's all for me what I saw his freshman year at UCLA, much like how I still
Christian
think about
Hackenberg?
Hackenberg's
Yeah.
freshman year at Penn State.
Christian Hackenberg.
You know, I love a one-time promising high school and then college quarterback.
I think that
prospects who
Hackenberg
never
and
panned
Rosen
out.
both had these things. So there were like very, very few good young quarterbacks for like 7 years there. And so for a while in college football, it was just, oh my God, here comes the next chosen one. And it was always like Hackenberg was like that, Rosen was like that. And we overrated these guys just because we were desperate for the next Andrew Luck. Never happened.
The story
Those
about
guys
Josh
got
Rosen
overrated.
correcting the Elite 11 playbook is, for me, that'll keep the torch.
Then Sunshine
torch
Ronnie
lit
Bass
forever.
came to Clemson.
Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. He's incredible. He
He's
really
not
is.
draft eligible for 2 years, right?
Yeah, he was a true freshman this year.
Mallory, who are your 5 most handsome quarterbacks of all time?
Ooh,
Number 1, Jimmy Garoppolo.
number 1.
Wow, she said that so fast.
Yeah, I know.
He's really
Like she'd been waiting her whole life for somebody to ask her.
he's extremely handsome. It's like
Yeah.
it's almost unbelievable. I'd have to think about the
That's
rest
why
of the
Brady had
list.
to get rid of him.
Brady's very handsome. He's obviously insufferable.
Brady's handsome, but he was like, I gotta get rid of this guy.
I have to give the list some thought. I'm not prepared to go off the dome for it. That's a serious question.
Is Flacco in the top 5?
What?
Handsome guy.
Top 5 all time?
For you, handsome. Handsome guy, Joe Flacco.
He's a handsome guy, but no, certainly not.
Darnold's not in the top 5.
I'm not going to comment.
What else will we work out with the NFL? Anything? Combine?
Combine, then we'll hit
The
free
Antonio
agency.
Brown saga, free agency,
And we're not far away from the draft.
Here's
though.
the deal.
draft.
If Clowney isn't tagged, there could be some good free agents. If he is, it could be kind of a crappy year.
I was sad that Julius Peppers retired.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the Julius
You
Peppers
just wanted
era.
him to keep going.
I liked when he came into the league and it was like this guy. We'd never seen an athlete like
Yeah.
at this position. It was just fun.
yeah. Oh, and also he
Now
got.
I feel like I'm old that he's retiring
Yeah, I don't like it.
because I felt like I was old when he came to the league and I was excited.
I
for
feel
him.
like that with Dwayne Wade right now.
Yeah, it's.
I don't
it's
like
tough.
it, 'cause
How old are you now?
I'm 32.
It's tough when the guys in your age range are at the tail end and you kind of look in the
Makes
mirror.
you think about life.
Well,
Kevin
one
and I are the same age.
The
I'm
one thing I
having the same
don't recommend is
experience.
getting into soccer because those guys are done.
Yeah,
at
they're down to
29.
like 24.
Yeah, and you're just like, what? And everybody who's good now was born in like 2001.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, this isn't good.
I remember my guy was Ken Griffey. We had the same birthday.
my
Oh.
God.
And it was like junior.
Andrew McCutcheon and I. were born the same
19-year-old
day.
center fielder. And then he went to the Reds. It's like, oh, Ken Griffey's getting old. Then it was like, all right, Ken Griffey's old. This sucks.
Yeah. Got to stop calling
Bill-
him the kid at a certain point.
I will say the good news about the Wade retirement is he's not bringing it up or bringing attention to it at all.
Yeah, he's been
Yeah,
very discreet.
He's been very discreet.
It's been a
he's
great
not,
job.
He's not shoving it in our faces, so I haven't really had to face
It's
my
been a great show.
mortality in that regard.
Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Of course.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. We'll see where AB goes. I say Niners. All right, we're going to talk to Chris Ryan in a second. First, did you know not all alcohol products are required to list their ingredients? That was news to me. Bud Light is changing the game. They believe that we deserve to know our beer's ingredients, so they put an ingredients label right on their packaging. Bud Light brewed with hops, barley, water, and rice. No corn syrup, no preservatives, no artificial flavors. Find out what ingredients are in your beer. Bud Light. Enjoy responsibly. AB, Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri. Here's a little insider travel secret from our friends at Hotel Tonight. There are tons of empty hotel rooms out there just waiting to be booked. Hotel Tonight has partnered with these awesome hotels to help them sell their unsold rooms, which means you get incredible deals. Forget scrolling through never-ending lists. Hotel Tonight shows you a select list of incredible deals at cool hotels they think you'll love. Short profiles of each hotel, all the info you need, pictures of what the rooms really look like. You can arrange it by price, high price, down to low, or budget deals, luxury deals, whatever you want. Hotel Tonight, it is a great app that they keep improving over and over again. Perfect for spontaneous weekend getaways, 3-day weekends, business trips, 24-hour trips with your daughter if she plays club soccer. To start scoring amazing deals at incredible hotels, go to hoteltonight.com or download the app right now. All right, we're taping this Wednesday during the day. It's running late Wednesday night because there's no urgency, because there's no NBA. Chris Ryan is here. We have Sean Fennessey coming up a little bit later, as well as Kevin Clark and Mallory Rubin. We're going to be talking about football and basketball. Chris Ryan here right now. We ran a piece today called the NBA Take Meter, the stretch run.
Yeah.
Which I thought was smart. And the takes were, stuff like the Lakers will miss the playoffs.
Right. And then we rated those takes with like a variety of feelings of confidence. Like, how confident are you in this take?
The Lakers are favored now to miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
Which I did. I actually put together a little document because Sal and House and I were trying to decide who to bet on to miss the playoffs.
I love that you're spending your free time this way.
Yeah, it was late at night. They were, I'm sorry, yes to make the playoffs plus 125, no to make the playoffs minus 145. Since December 10th, they're 11-19.
So wait, your free time you spend basically watching Sopranos and putting together Google Docs about gambling.
Maybe doing both of those at the same time.
You're really the depravity is settling in now.
Well, here's the other thing. The Kings were plus 400 to make the playoffs.
Uh-huh.
The Kings since January 7th, they're 11-7. They just traded for Harrison Barnes. They have no incentive to lose since they don't have their first round pick. And I actually think with the style they play and the energy they have at home and stuff, it's the kind of team that's going to get better the last couple months.
Yeah.
I thought that was crazy. Talk about like bias against a team, right? Where it's like on the one hand, you have LeBron. It was like, oh, LeBron, he's the best. Blah, blah, blah. Then Sacramento, it's like, oh, they stink. But just looking at the rosters, how would anybody think the Lakers are going to make the playoffs over Sacramento? What do you think?
I also think that the Lakers just have like a catastrophically bad defense without Lonzo.
Yeah.
You know,
when does he come back?
Couple weeks. I think he's maybe he's getting close. I'm not really sure when he gets back, but that corresponds with also we got our first LeBron's groin isn't all the way better yet stories,
Yeah. That groin is just
well,
you can only electrolysis it so much. Seemed okay in the All-Star game though.
Yeah, it seemed fine.
Do the Lakers miss the playoffs?
I think that they do. Yeah. I think that they do. I think that this is like I don't see how you flip a switch with this team of kind of like the rejects and the kids. Like it's going to be really hard for him to do it. I mean, maybe he quote unquote gets
and a
healthy.
Coach that's in trouble.
Yeah, a coach who does not like what's Luke really coaching for here? You know what I mean? Where is he trying to save his job? Is he trying to teach the kids? Is he trying to keep LeBron happy? Can you do all three at once?
The case for it would be he did this last year and he flipped the switch and got them through it. We ran a piece by Zach Cram this week about the best players to miss the playoffs. And the best player who ever missed the playoffs was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar until this season if LeBron doesn't make it. But Kareem in 75 and 76 didn't make it either year. His last Bucks season, they'd made the finals the year before. And Oscar Robertson, I think, retired. And then Lucius Allen got hurt. They had no point guard. They ended up going like 38 and 44. And he was putting up like 30 and 15 every night. It was just like, it was basically like a Pelican situation. And then the Lakers traded for him that summer, but they traded basically all of their assets. So he goes to the Lakers, doesn't make it again. So he missed the playoffs 2 years in a row. In his prime, he was the third best player of all time. I think LeBron's second.
I've basically netted out it. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. If they make the playoffs or if they get like the 7 seed somehow, I think they could go to the conference finals. Like once he's in the playoffs, I think all bets are off.
And they have 3-point shooting. You could argue maybe there's another buyout guy that we don't know that might be coming at some point. I think they're pretty flawed defensively, though. It is really easy to score 128 against them. Which
if he's
means
not
that he has
aggressive,
to do a lot.
yeah, it's like you just saw that. And I mean, I know that they were sagging a lot in the Sixers game, for instance, but that was just like there was a playground defending going on there. I've seen better defending in pickup games, honestly.
All right, so we both think they're going to miss the playoffs. The second take from the take meter was that if James Harden averages 37 a game, he's the MVP. So the thing that's at stake for him is the non-center scoring record of all time, which is held by MJ. MJ's like 37 something. He has a chance to have the greatest scoring season anyone's ever had. Windhorst today, our friend Brian Windhorst, wrote a piece about Giannis versus Harden, how this was becoming the subplot of All-Star Weekend. People arguing about Giannis is the traditional two-way player.
Yeah, that's the basketball I was taught to play. Yeah, right.
And then Harden is I just put everyone else on my back for us to make the playoffs. And it's like a great old school MVP argument. I personally think the Bucks are going to end up winning 63 to 64 games. If you look at their schedule, if you look at their point differential, if you just look at the way they've been handling their business, they have a chance to win 30 road games, which is really impressive.
Yeah.
And then they're in a conference where like 6 teams are tanking by, March, April.
Right.
Whereas Houston, I don't really see a roadmap for them to get to even the 4 seed. It really seems like maybe they get to 4 seed, but they're definitely not going to be a top 3 seed. They're probably going to finish around 48, 49 wins. And I don't think what he's doing is sustainable. And I don't think he wants it to be sustainable.
He started to make noises
Yeah,
about that. I mean, like now in this day and age, like of course you get like really freaked out whenever something like this happens. But Harden was basically talking about like he has to do this because of like the situation he finds himself in.
It's a burden.
And then there was that video that basically like showed up online of, I think it was Steph talking to Bud,
Yeah.
the coach of the Bucks. And Steph says that Harden told him, I kind of wish I could just play in like a beautiful basketball system, but this is what we are, the situation I find myself in. I have to take this load myself.
I'm in an unassisted assist situation.
Right.
I think he settles at around 36. Because part of the thing with the Rockets, Capella comes back.
Yeah.
I think tomorrow night.
Mhm.
They have to get Chris Paul going. They have to figure out when Chris gets switched on big guys, can he consistently destroy them like he was doing the last couple of years? And Harden's got to sacrifice some of that offense. So I think he tails off a little, and I think Giannis ascends.
Mhm.
And I think at some point we're going to look at this and go, wow, the Bucks have a chance to go 64-18. Like, holy shit. People will start writing about them historically as a top 15 team.
What happens if Paul George has a March like the February he just had?
I think it's already a win for Paul George. Being in the 2017 Kawhi spot of award season,
Yeah.
where like Zach Lowe, shout out to Zach. Zach will pick him for MVP.
Yeah.
He's the best two-way player in the league. Like that, he's already won.
Okay.
Yeah, he's won. He's going to be the critically acclaimed MVP candidate. Take 3 on the take meter was the Sixers are the best team in the East. I don't believe this. I think it's
What a
ludicrous.
shock.
I don't want to talk about it. Take 4, Al Horford, the most valuable Celtic.
We're not going to talk about the Sixers, but we're going to spend time talking
No,
about
we
whether Al
talked about him
Horford is the
last
best.
week.
Oh
I
my
don't care.
God.
I will blow by this too. Al Horford, the most valuable Celtic. I felt that way last year. I felt that way this year.
I feel that way right now. Yes.
They need him in the playoffs more than any other player. They
you
can
wanna
patch anything together except for if Al Horford is in there.
Do your Kyrie thing.
I just want him to stop talking.
Yeah. So we just like this today
Just
as we
stop.
recorded, the Rachel Nichols interview came out where
5-minute interview talking about how hard the season's been and the young guys, and just shut up. Stop talking. Doesn't help anyone. Really, stop. This is not like a shut up and dribble. This is just like a stop talking. You're not helping. Guess what? Nobody wants to hear yet another rant about how hard the season's been. The season's not hard. You're getting paid $25 million a year. You're in a top 5 team. What's hard about this? Jaylen Brown's upset. He only got 6 shots in a game. This is like traumatizing. Shut up. That's my take.
Good. Thanks. I just wanted to hear that.
Leadership is not every 2 weeks, I'm going to throw under the bus everyone under 23 who's playing for me.
Yeah.
And talk about how they just don't
Who,
get it.
by the way, play pretty
but I
well when
do.
you're not there.
Yeah. By the way, he's only 3 years older than him.
Yeah.
So, man, these young guys. Yeah. It's like, you're 26. You don't know anything. You were at Duke for a year. What weathered experience does Kyrie Irving have? Because you were in a couple finals? Stop talking. Anyway. Oh, that's it for the take corner.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the.
I backed you into that one.
You really did. Well, you love this.
Me?
I'm at the point now where on July 1st, I'm happy to be in a black town car driving Kyrie to the airport.
Before the Sixers game last week, I believe you said, I've moved on to the Red Sox.
I did.
Yes. Right.
I still love the Celtics.
Okay.
It's my,
Yeah.
I love that team. I just feel like some people are not meant to be leaders. And that's just the way it is. And unfortunately, Kyrie's one of those people.
I might agree with you now. I think that that's sort of where this is all coming from. I mean, you could make the argument that all of this is the breadcrumb trail for him to leave Boston, that this is why like he's not comfortable there because there's too many people there who want too much of the pie. But I think ultimately, like he had his run as like the team leader and it's not suiting him. And now he's going to go share it with another guy of his.
So you think that there's some sabotage here for him?
I don't
He's
know.
like the guy in a relationship who's being mean to his college girlfriend because he really wants to just break up.
So what do we have like as evidence so far? Like there's like the Gordon Hayward final shot thing where he flipped out on court, right?
I mean, there's honestly been 6 interviews.
And
during
then
this
multiple
season.
interviews where he's just like, I had to call LeBron to apologize because it's so hard.
That
playing
was
with
the craziest.
Yeah.
I had to call LeBron to apologize because now that I'm in the same situation he was in, where he's got these dumb young guys who think they know everything, and I was that dumb young guy once. So I called him for advice.
This is the closest I've ever felt to being Daniel Caffey, and you're Nathan Jessup. And I just know you want to say you ordered the Code Red.
I love watching Kyrie.
Yeah.
I just think some people aren't meant to be leaders. And it's funny, it's become this huge polarizing thing with the Celtic fan base. And some people are saying they're better off without him. Then other people are like, that's insane. Look at the efficiency numbers. I think they're absolutely better off with him. But he has to figure out how to just kind of fit in as the best guy in the team that's also not overpowering everyone else on the team. On the court and off the court. I love Al Horford. She's a great guy. You know who's not giving interviews about the young Celtics? Al Horford. What has Al Horford said this year? Man, these young guys, they just got to get their shit together. Can we talk about Donaghy really fast?
Sure. You got to go for it.
So, as we're talking, Fennessey entered because we're about to redo the 2014 Oscars. Just briefly wanted to mention this Donaghy story that ESPN broke last week, where they spent 2 years studying all the games that he reffed, not just in 06,
just a couple days ago, right?
Yeah. But going back, like basically a 4-year pattern where they investigated it and found out he'd been gambling, all this stuff. And there were 2 revelations in there. First of all, I was not surprised at all to hear that he was betting on games because everybody knew that who knew anything. The thing that shocked me was how the NBA handled it. And that was like the hidden thing in this piece that I don't want to say people missed because it was out there a little bit, but basically the FBI went to the NBA and said, we have this guy. We think this happened. And we want to proceed with a bigger, deeper investigation. We want him to wear a wire. At this point, it was like top secret. 4 weeks later, the story gets leaked that Donaghy is being investigated. And in this piece, the FBI side is basically like, we think the NBA leaked it. It wasn't going to come out. They leaked it because they didn't want us to investigate the other refs. I thought that was shocking. I couldn't believe it because, all right, so why would the NBA do that? This is where Chris barely read the story and he's staring at me. Why would the NBA do that though? All right. Either A, they just don't want their other referees to get investigated, or B, they just want the story to go away and paint him as a rogue official, which is what happened over the next year, where they started with the premise this guy was a rogue official who's acting alone. And
had debts,
and he was a bad guy, and he's a liar, and then let's kind of sweep this under the rug. And it does feel like this was swept under the rug a little bit. And I was really surprised that ESPN wrote that story when we are now in this era of nobody wants to piss off their partners. They spent 2 years investigating what I think is like the third rail for the NBA.
Because in retrospect, what? We would have to go back and like reevaluate some of the games that he did.
Yeah, he was in playoff games. And, and also like how... So one of the things that story covered was just how easy it is for a referee to fix a game.
Yes.
If they really wanted to. And this was the lesson of this Donaghy thing, which is one of his tricks in the story was that he called an illegal defense early in the game. Because if you call it early, then you can basically call it whenever you want as the game goes along. It also makes teams act a little differently. Said how, get somebody in foul trouble, 2 quick fouls in 40 seconds.
Yeah.
That was another one of his tricks. Pointed out this Andre Iguodala game where he did that. Also talked about how he would talk to the other refs about certain things he wanted to push forward and kind of like Jedi mind trick the refs on, Shaq's getting away with that elbow. We got to call that this game. And then just the sheer magnitude of the calls that he was making where it was like he was 23-4, where it was just completely unrealistic how one-sided it was.
Right.
So I think it was a worthy time to write this piece where in 2019, as we head into the next decade and sports gambling is becoming a bigger and bigger thing, like this is something we kind of have to worry about a little bit here. Not just referees, but like long snappers and back judges in football. And a left-handed reliever who's going to pitch to one batter and who makes $220,000 a year in Game 5 of the World Series. And this is why it took so long for gambling to become legal.
It's a major issue in Europe and European soccer where
oh my god, in tennis,
where gambling is much more pervasive and you can make bets on basically any corner of a European city on any game you want, and it's a big issue.
What's been the biggest scandal in soccer?
I mean, there's a lot of suspicious stuff and there's a lot of stuff that's rumored. I guess there's a bunch of stuff with Italy. There's a lot of like Italy stuff where there's been huge scandals. There was also like something really weird recently where like a team got beat 20-0 in like a Serie B or Serie C like game. And it was just very suspicious. And they fielded like 7 players or something.
Oh, Jesus.
It was some weird thing.
They always thought tennis was the easiest one to fix because people just bet tennis every day, 52 weeks a year. It's always on. There's always games and more games and more games and more games or matches. And it's just so easy to tweak an outcome in tennis. Be like, oh, I hurt my calf. Oh, I have to resign in the second set. Or, you basically could tank 3 points.
It's individual
in a set.
pressure rather than depending on team pressure.
Golf doesn't make sense to fix because, how would you? Unless somebody was betting, will you make the cut or not? But that would be, if somebody's betting $1 million on that becomes suspicious.
Right.
Basketball. I mean, Donaghy, I have in my page 2 archives in 2007, he reffed some of those Suns Spurs games. And there was one game that was so egregiously officiated that I did like a blog post the day after. And I put all 3 officials' names in the post. And Donaghy was one of the names. And it was like, this is so bad. This will go down in history as one. And it's like, blah, 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 and Tim Donaghy.
Wow.
And this was during the year that he fixed the game. So it's like, shit. So this is the third rail for the NBA. This is the 3 things for them are Kobe's trial, Donaghy, and the Artest melee are the 3-headed Mount Rushmore of things the NBA hopes never comes up again. So I was really surprised ESPN wrote this.
Yeah, it was fascinating that it came up. I mean, it was very specifically placed during this dead period of the season after the All-Star game, before the games start back up again. People are just sitting around waiting for stuff to happen, and this drops.
So if Soderbergh was doing High Flying Bird too, but it was about a rogue referee fixing NBA games. Is that your all-time wheelhouse movie?
Yeah, who would play Donaghy?
It's like Forget Paris crossed with...
I always felt like Chris Parnell could play Tim Donaghy.
Chris Parnell?
Yeah.
Is he too old now?
Yeah, probably, but he looks a little bit like
What about
him.
Chris Pratt? No,
he'd be like, because he'd needed to be heroic.
Think about that. If you have any suggestions for who should play Donaghy in the movie. All right, we're going to take a break. Coming up, a redo of the 2014 Oscars. All right, Sean's coming in to do the 5-year Oscars. First, getting tickets online can be far too complicated with hundreds of sites and varying levels of reliability. Hard to know who to trust. As you know, SeatGeek, the way to go. They put millions of tickets in one place so you can easily find the seats you want for a price you're willing to pay. Designed to make your ticket buying experience easier than ever by searching multiple ticket sites, grading every ticket based on value. SeatGeek helps you immediately identify the best seats that fit your budget. Every purchase fully guaranteed. Oh, yeah. You can shop for tickets on SeatGeek with confidence. I have the SeatGeek app on my phone. I've had it for years. I check it sometimes just because I'm a weirdo. I like to see. I was in Sundance. I didn't even want to go to a jazz game. I was just curious how many people have their tickets for jazz games on SeatGeek. And I looked, and there was like nobody because people in Utah are lunatics and they just want to go to jazz games. Other times, you'll be surprised not only what the deals are, but SeatGeek has the color-coded maps. You can look for the darker ones are always good. Like you're getting a great deal. Just enjoyable. They do a good job. My listeners get $10 off their first SeatGeek purchase. All you have to do is download the SeatGeek app, enter promo code BS today. Again, promo code BS for $10 off your first SeatGeek purchase. SeatGeek, life is an event, and we have the tickets. All right, we do this every year, right around Oscars time. It's a tradition that goes back to the late 1980s. Me, Chris Ryan, Sean Fennessey on this podcast.
Back in the 80s.
When we were doing this podcast in the late 1980s?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good times.
They don't know any better.
I was 11. We were just...
We had this idea back in Grantland, the 5-year Oscars, which was basically everyone complains about the Oscars. It's too reactionary. The PR pressure and all that stuff can sway it too. You really need a couple years to sit back, almost like with the Hall of Fame in baseball. We need the 5 years to really, let's take a breath. Let's really reassess what happened here. And we thought with the Oscars, they should hand out the Oscars 5 years later instead of right after, because then we would really have a chance to, think about how we felt about this movie as the years pass, rewatching it, noticing things maybe we didn't notice the first, second, or third passes, and so on. So we're going to do this with the 2014 Oscars, which was the 2013 movie season.
Good movie year.
Was it?
When I was looking at last night,
cold.
Well, I would say it's a good movie year beyond the stuff that was nominated for Oscars. There's a bunch of stuff in there that I'm a fan of.
Yeah, I would say this podcast next year is going to be awesome because 2014 was a great movie year. 2013 is a cool movie year, but a bad Oscars year, I would say.
I left me cold. So here are the winners for the audience listening at home. 12 Years a Slave won for Best Picture. Matthew McConaughey won for Dallas Buyers Club. That has not aged well. Kate Blanchett for Blue Jasmine. Sure. Jared Leto for Dallas Buyers Club. That has not aged well. And Lupita Nyong'o, 12 Years a Slave. That's aged nicely. Alfonso Cuarón won for Gravity, Best Director. And then Frozen won for Best Animated, which I think out of all of this has aged the best because everybody loves Frozen.
I have an announcement to make that I'm going to be doing a breakaway rewatchables that's just about the Croods. It's going to be...
Yeah, not a lot of legacy on the Croods.
That's funny. So Best Picture had 9 nominees, and I can't believe 5 of them were in this category. 12 Years a Slave won it. American Hustle, Captain Phillips, Dallas Buyers Club, Gravity, Her, Nebraska, Philomena, and The Wolf of Wall Street. How many of those are you good with 5 years later?
12 Years a Slave, Gravity, Her.
Good with Her.
And The Wolf of Wall Street. I think.
That's it. You'd bump everyone else.
I think Captain Phillips is a pretty nifty movie. I think it's really well made and actually fun to watch, despite
what it's about,
the gravity of its storyline. Yeah. These other movies are traditional classic, like Oscar bait-ish movies, and I don't think they're very effective or memorable.
Nebraska, I didn't really like when it happened, but it was during the Alexander Payne, everything he was doing, everybody was just excited about.
We're still in that moment, except for downsizing. Alexander
I
Payne's
think downsizing
great.
Killed the moment.
Yeah, I just think he hasn't been, I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of love for The Descendants, and there was some love for the earlier movies like Election and Citizen Ruth, but I don't think he was ever fully, properly recognized. And so
did About Schmidt get nominations beyond Nicholson?
Some writing nominations, and Sideways obviously got nominated for Best Picture too. So you're right, Bill. There was a time when if he put a movie out, it was getting nominated for Best Picture.
So you're okay with Her? That's a movie I would never watch again.
I love that movie.
Okay.
I think it doesn't have a strong legacy because Spike Jonze hasn't made a movie since. So he isn't creating like this arc over his career. He was working on the Viceland network, and he's made commercials. He won a Directors Guild Award this year for directing an Apple commercial. Mm-hmm. But if he had put out, let's say he'd made 2 movies like the way that Cuarón did, or Scorsese, or somebody in that time, you'd be like Spike Jonze. He's one of the 20 best living filmmakers in the world. But we don't think of him that way as much now, so Her doesn't have a stronger legacy.
What do you think, Chris?
So are you asking me which movies I still stick with, or which movies?
Yeah, which ones would you bump?
Oh, I would bump.
If you had some whammies.
Philomena, I would get rid of. Dallas, I think, has not aged well. And I mean, American Hustle is fascinating, but is not, I don't think, a very good movie.
That was kind of like an NBA All-Star Game type of situation. Just a lot of people, everybody liked making a weird movie, and people were like, cool.
There's just like 5 too many choices made in that movie, and I was watching like a little bit of it last night, and Cooper is like doing some stuff there, but like he's also like, I have to have a perm and an accent, and I gotta live with my mom. And it's just like, there's just too much stuff happening. It's like, you can't have a comb over and Bradley Cooper with a perm and people doing 5 different accents and then Renner. You know what I mean? Like, there's just too much.
I forgot Jeremy Renner was in that movie.
Yeah.
I think it's funny sometimes.
And Lawrence.
Like a movie like that, I think people just appreciate that it happened.
Mm-hmm. It's an actor showcase.
Yeah. You know, it's like, oh, that was fun. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. It's not a
good effort.
It's not rewatchable, I would say. It's also not it's like the 5th best movie for everybody involved, which is never a good thing. You know, you want people kind of at their peak, and it's not Bale at his peak. It's not Amy Adams at his peak. It's not David O. Russell at his peak. Like, it's just not any of those figures. So I don't know. It's a little bit of a Frankenstein together thing that just feels like very Scorsese over here and very Cameron Crowe over here. And there's just a lot of pulling from a lot of different sources that never totally comes together.
I'm okay. I mean, 12 Years a Slave absolutely should be in this. I'm okay with American Hustle. Captain Phillips is weird. It's weird that got nominated for an Oscar.
A second time?
It was good.
I mean, it's Paul Greengrass, who's a very respected filmmaker, and it's Tom Hanks doing a movie star part.
It was good.
So I love that movie.
But like Mission
times.
Impossible Fallout was really good too. That didn't get nominated.
It's fucking bullshit that it wasn't nominated.
But that's what I don't get. It's like, if we're going to nominate that, then Mission Impossible absolutely should have made it this year. That movie was amazing.
One thing's a docudrama based on a true story about real people and a real conflict. And Somali pirates was a very hot story in international news a few years before this movie came out. And Mission Impossible Fallout is about guys wearing masks. So like, why do we take things seriously and other things not is always up for debate. But I do know why Fallout isn't nominated, and this was nominated.
Fallout should have been nominated.
I agree.
You agree with that?
Yeah, Fallout should have been nominated.
Well, relative to the other stuff we're looking at, you know, there's so many mediocre movies.
But I don't think that there's anything wrong with Captain Phillips being nominated. I thought it was an excellent movie. Yeah,
it was really good.
Yeah,
I guess I don't know what the line is with sometimes when they pick this stuff, because to me it's like there's like 2 or 3 Captain Phillips type movies every year, or at least one. And sometimes they get nominated and sometimes they don't. Like, they're kind of action thrillers. They're just really well done action thrillers with good actors. And sometimes that matters and sometimes that doesn't. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Dallas Buyers Club, I didn't really like when it happened. And I felt like McConaughey lost a lot of weight for it. And that became, and McConaughey was having a moment and people just liked him. And it was like, cool. So McConaughey is a serious actor and this is great. And I just don't think that movie has aged well, and I don't think we'll speak of it, you know, really at all 20 years from now.
No, but it did launch Jean-Marc Vallée's career to some extent, and he's become like quietly one of the most important filmmakers just because of what he does in television as well. Like, even if he's not your bag, like that guy gets like a lot of stuff on screen that and I think Big Little Lies and Sharp Objects are like kind of have like changed the trajectory of HBO in some ways. And it's really fascinating to see where he's going with his career.
Sean?
It's a very similar story to Captain Phillips. It's based on a true story and it's based, am I getting that right? It is.
Definitely.
It's based on a real guy's life.
Oh, 100% it is.
Yeah. And I think there's obviously like a lot of complications around the gender dynamics and who gets to play what kind of character in the world. That's a little bit more fraught with the Jared Leto thing. Then that potentially is not going to age well. But even aside from that stuff, Jean-Marc Vallée has this very beautiful, impressionistic style of movie making, but it doesn't make for highly rewatchable movies. So the more time goes by, the less likely you are to return to it. He made Wild right after this, the Reese Witherspoon movie, which was also at the time was praised and you know, based on a beloved true story written by Cheryl Strayed. It just there's something kind of ephemeral about the movie itself. Like it's not involving, it's just a showcase. And a lot of Oscar movies are like that. They're just showcases for people doing stuff. And Matthew McConaughey and Jared Leto they're such showy performances. You know, there's nothing subtle about this movie at all. It's like somebody is sick and somebody is in a crazy costume and somebody is doing an accent they've never done before. And that's just like, that's what Oscars always rewards.
Well, I don't like it that much. I thought the movie was worth watching.
Yeah, of course.
And it was good. And McConaughey's really good in it.
It's okay. I mean, it's a tradition. It's a classical Oscar movie that, like you say, just is not going to have a lot of memory 5 years from now.
I feel like your Gravity take is going to be like your Kyrie take. I'm getting ready for it.
The Kyrie thing was not a take.
So what's your Gravity take?
You don't lead people by constantly complaining about them. I'm sorry. It's not a take. That's a fact.
Interesting.
Gravity I really liked. And I think it's aged well. I liked it in the moment. I like seeing big stars in really well done movies. And I was okay with it.
I unambiguously love this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I just think it's like technical achievement, movie star performance, great story.
Fucking cool. It's a constant, how are they doing this movie?
Really awesome, like
it.
reason to go to a movie theater.
Yeah. You're like, oh, wow. How'd they do that?
I don't
How'd
like
they do
study
this?
it. I haven't watched it that many times since it came out. I just remember being absolutely blown away by
Such a good movie theater movie.
It's good.
How How can you watch Gravity and be like, it's good?
Well, it's truly a theatrical experience.
Yes.
I did rewatch it. I rewatched all of Cuarón's movies this month before the Oscars for Roma, and the script I don't think is very good, and I think the pacing is kind of weird when you're not watching it in a theater. And I hadn't watched it since I saw it in a movie theater. In the movie theater, I completely agree. It is one of the most memorable experiences.
It was basically like
had.
an IMAX movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was like an IMAX movie with a script.
He is a master. I just don't know if it's a movie that I want to return to. Now, that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be rewarded here. I think that the 12 Years a Slave versus Gravity race was one of the more interesting races that we've had in recent years, and identifies a little bit of the crisis that the Oscars is in right now, where a lot of people saw Gravity. It was a huge hit, and they tune in to see if Gravity's going to win, and then it doesn't win, and they're like, what's this other movie? And then they walk away confused. Now, that's not us. We think and talk about the Oscars all the time, but it does raise some interesting convulsions about the Academy.
Her? You're okay with this being nominated?
Yeah, I said I love Spike Jonze.
You are too, Chris?
This is a great movie.
Nebraska?
I'd be kind of curious to see what would happen if her came out in 2019, though.
And the last one is Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, so this is the one I wanted to talk about.
Yeah. I think this is aged in the most interesting way of any of these movies of the last 5 years, other than a couple that we haven't mentioned yet.
I thought that this movie was criminally misunderstood upon release. As this basically being like, it was like somehow like an extension of Entourage or something. Like, look how cool this is. This is so badass what these guys did.
Yeah.
And it was like, I think it's kind of like hard sometimes when you say to somebody they don't like a movie and you're like, well, you do understand it is a comedy, right? Like that it's a satire. And like, I think people didn't understand that Scorsese and DiCaprio were actively like lampooning and making fun of these people and like trying to show how grotesque capitalism is. And it got kind of distorted as like, oh God, why would I want to see another movie about like these corporate assholes? But I think that this is the movie that aged the best out of this group.
It suffered from the same criticisms that I think a lot of Scorsese's movies about gangsters suffer from, which is this perception that he's glorifying people who do bad things, but he just has this incredible rock and roll style of movie making that it gets you excited to watch movies. That doesn't necessarily mean he's approving of the actions of the people. It's funny, this year, I feel like Vice came under the same fire. I read a lot of criticism about that movie where people said, this movie tries to make us think Dick Cheney was cool because he sought power. And if that's your takeaway from Vice, I honestly don't know what movie you were watching.
Right.
But it's exactly what you're saying with Wolf of Wall Street, Chris, where people were like, Jordan Belfort is a piece of garbage who ruined people's lives, and we shouldn't make him seem like somebody who would resemble Leonardo DiCaprio. And it's just it's like a perception thing. How do you think about the movie?
In a lot of ways, also, this movie is as physically demanding to watch as Gravity. Like, it's a very long movie with these very intense sequences that like really challenge you as a viewer.
So I think that's what killed it. It was too long.
Too long.
Was it like 3 hours?
3 hours.
Yeah.
2 hours and 59 minutes.
It was just too long. And
it's 3 hours of like cocaine cinema. It's not like 3 hours of like, this is pretty like cool. Like it
was I'm going to use the word grueling.
I love that about this movie.
Watch.
Yeah, I mean, this one kind of falls under the famous, would this have been a Netflix series question that you always ask on the rewatchable.
This is 100% would have been better as a 6-episode Netflix series.
Yeah, I mean, and shows like Succession are kind of about these sorts of people, and there's and Billions too. There's obviously interest in this kind of like high-toned wealth porn that also doubles as commentary on how bad people are that pursue wealth porn.
The other thing is, it took criticism at the time, and Vinyl was the worst version of this, but being Scorsese karaoke a little bit. And I think that was my reaction the first time I watched it, was I felt like it was Scorsese had been artificial intelligence, and some computer was making some of the choices of like pulling from 40 years of Scorsese, basically.
I feel like karaoke is an interesting word, because sometimes you can go to a karaoke bar and you'd rather hear some drunk guy sing Pearl Jam karaoke than hear the real version of a Taylor Swift song. You know, like, and that's
to pull an example completely out of nowhere.
You know, it's just kind of random. But I mean, I personally would just much rather watch karaoke Scorsese than 96% of other films. I'm just more interested in the kinds of movies he makes.
Yeah, I think also
that goes for both kinds. That goes for Silence too.
There's also in this Best Picture category is the Scorsese karaoke is American Hustle. Like American Hustle is the like let's do a Led Zeppelin drop and have people walk into a room in slow motion and everybody is saying things like, we got to get over on all these guys. And like, it's like, it has that kind of tough guy talk. I think it's interesting you identified this in Vinyl. Terrence Winter wrote both of those. He wrote Wolf, he wrote Vinyl. Your mileage may vary. I happen to think that Wolf of Wall Street is just like a pretty amazing black comedy. And it's one of the best Jonah Hill performances.
I was just going to say, Jonah Hill's so great in this movie. So funny.
So my question is, if this movie is 2 hours, 23 minutes, I think it's remembered in a little more fondly, because I think people watch this once and then that was it. And
I think
if
it's also
on cable,
problem is like
the
the climax of this movie is him having a Quaaludes episode where he can't get into it. Kyle likes it.
That part's great. Yeah, I think there's a couple things though to mention about this. One, it was a huge hit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
a 3-hour movie about a stockbroker. Crazy. A huge hit.
Incredible
testament
trailer.
to the power of Leo.
Yeah, Leo and the kind of like the Kanye West song in the trailer and the kind of energy. The music in this movie is incredible. You know, it's the classic like Robbie Robertson just pulling from 50 years of rock and roll and hip hop history and just inserting it into the movie. Great Kyle Chandler heat check in this movie. I don't know. I really like Wolf of Wall Street. Also, Martin Scorsese was like 75 years old when he made this. You can't underestimate that. I'm 36 and I'm like exhausted every day. How did he make such like a rocking, long, epic story at that age? It's really impressive.
We all love Bernthal at The Ringer.
Yeah.
And I think we have to legally adopt him.
I don't think he would accept that. I think he's pretty bare knuckled these days. I don't know. Have you seen Widows yet?
He's good in
pretty
it.
Tough performance.
Oh, I thought you meant like he already has an allegiance to another editorial code. Like he's Team Atlantic.
Oh,
That would hurt my feelings. He's in a movie with The Rock that I really like. What's that movie with The Rock when he has to like drive a rig? What's that movie, Kyle?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
He's good in that movie. That's like a borderline rewatchable for me. That's like in that Shooter class of.
Oh yeah.
When I see Shooter, I'm like, okay.
That's not Walking
Snitch?
Tall, is it?
No.
Snitch.
Yeah.
He's good. I think that was the same year as this movie. I like Snitch.
That's when The Rock's son gets arrested, right? And he has to go in and extract
Snitch is
him.
good. All right. A couple movies that didn't get Best Picture attention. There's one outrageous omission that really offended me, and I can't believe they fucked this up. And I think it's one of the 5 best and longest lasting movies of this year, The Conjuring.
The Conjuring.
I think The Conjuring was fucking great. And horror movies never get attention ever. I think it's one of the 8 or 9 best horror movies of all time. Hugely influential, exceptionally well done, really well acted. You could make a case Vera Farmiga should have gotten nominated.
Mm-hmm.
And just got overlooked.
So,
yes or no, Fennessey?
I think that there's definitely an interesting case to be made for it that definitely was not made for it at the time.
Yeah. And in a post Get Out world, might have.
Yeah. I think I've talked about this on podcasts before, but the Conjuring universe, quote unquote, is legitimately the most successful non-fast, non-superhero franchise in the world. The Annabelle movies are a part of this. The Curse of La Llorona that's coming out this summer. The Nun that came out last year. All of those movies are all connected to The Conjuring. The Conjuring 2, I actually think, is better than the first Conjuring.
Yeah, that's the one in England, right?
Yeah. But you're right that it is like kind of an important movie in movie history. It doesn't have one thing that I think a movie like Captain Phillips does have, which like it doesn't really tell us anything about anything. It's just like a fun, well-made horror movie.
But I think for me, it signifies the shift of what happened in horror movies this decade. Like the moment The Conjuring comes out, we have now officially moved away from Saw and torture porn.
Right.
And we're moving into there's something wrong with the house. There's something wrong with my daughter. There's something wrong with my car. Just this whole supernatural world. And the Conjuring 1 and 2 is still the best version of it, I think. I've watched all of them.
It's a really good case.
We even watched Open House on Netflix this week, which is the worst one of all of them. And if you ever want to watch an incoherent, awful movie, watch Open House on Netflix. It is another Something's Wrong with the House movie, but Conjuring started this. I mean, it didn't start it because like Amityville Horror did it in the 70s, but like The Conjuring, I guess, brought it back.
It was the most polished, well-made version of this movie that had come along. Yeah, and I mean, you know, it's like B-level movie stars are partaking in it. They're taking it very seriously. It's definitely aspiring to more like The Exorcist than it is to something like Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good case for it, especially when you look back on like Philomena and American Hustle movies that were like, who cares about these movies? We don't think about them.
Second one, The Counselor. Thoughts?
That would never get nominated, but that'll definitely be like the rewatchables that you and I do that gets this company shut down.
But I think
I at least would want to be a part of that one. I love The Counselor.
I think that'll be 10 years from now one of the most respected movies from this year.
I think it's going to be obsessed over. I don't know about respected. Like, it's really, really weird to the point of obscurity. It is similarly like The Wolf of Wall Street, though, like an old guy being like, fuck it, I'm putting all my cards on the table.
Right.
Like, here are all my moves, and they're all really weird.
Indecipherable what that movie is actually like. As somebody who loves Cormac McCarthy and Ridley Scott and Texas drug stories and everything that's basically, it took me like 3 viewings to be like, oh, that's the story. I actually had to read the screenplay to be like, oh, diamonds, I got it. Okay, cool. Like, you watch it, you're just like, wow, that guy just got his head cut off. I don't know why.
Our girl's in that.
Cam Diaz?
Cam.
Yeah. This is
it's good Cam.
This is a very physical
one of those,
performance from Cameron Diaz.
When you have the conversation of Cameron Diaz, underrated, overrated, properly rated, and settle on underrated because she's really underrated. This is one of the performances where you're like, yeah, The Counselor.
One of the most go for broke actress.
Really enjoyed her career.
In years.
Great job by her.
Come back. She hasn't made a movie in like 5 years.
I think she's done. Before Midnight, I don't think is in the best picture conversation for me. I thought it was the weakest of the 3. I thought it was one of the most memorable movies I saw that year. It's really rough. You're just in the middle of this relationship.
That is
I was just going to say
that. You're in like a real marriage with these people, and it's warts and all, and it's like you kind of leave the theater and you look at whoever you're dating or you're married to, and you kind of size each other up for 5 seconds.
When did Boyhood actually come out? When was that?
After
2 years ago.
So the Before trilogy is like, to me, in some ways a lot more it's just like way more of a significant achievement than Boyhood, even though he spent so much time making Boyhood and it's a miracle. But like what he's done in the Before trilogy and how, I think crucially because those 2 actors have just remained relevant and so great.
Chris, don't step on the summer rewatch.
I know, but it's just planned. Like the Before,
save some for the rewatch.
Before Midnight is I think really deserves to be in this Best Picture.
So you would
category.
do Best Picture for it?
Yeah, especially since it's no guarantee that we'll get a Before Afternoon or whatever the 4th one would be. You know,
Before Afternoon.
I don't even know. Yeah, Before Noon. Like, yeah,
I think I think it's very hard to make something that feels real. That people can walk out of a movie and go, man, this person really understands relationships. This is really what it's like to be in a fight where you're like, is this the last fight we're going to have? And that movie does that. It pulls that off. That's really impressive. He's such a genius. I love his movies.
It certainly should have bumped a couple of the ones we have here. Francis Ha, I'm not a huge fan of, but make the case for it.
You never lived in New York, Bill.
Great.
It's one of the all-time great 21st century. This is what it's like to be 26 in New York.
Okay.
Also, especially for me. I mean, I like me and Greta Gerwig are about the same age, and I can just feel her importing a lot of the experiences that I had. There are several scenes that take place in that movie in restaurants I've eaten in and in bars I've been to.
So it's a home movie for you.
I wouldn't be that derogatory about it. I think it's incredibly well made too.
Would you do Best Picture for it?
You know, these
are the 5-year Oscars. You can bump. We can bump
Sean
4 of these movies.
I threw a bunch of these kinds of movies at Sean last night, and it was interesting. Our like brief conversation that we had about it was pretty fast. In fact, Francis Ha was on that. Inside Llewyn Davis was on. That was
list. That was the last one I had on the list. That has to at least be discussed.
So you're not a big Coen Brothers person. So what do
I'm
you
not.
think?
I didn't love this movie.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say,
but a lot of people do. People are into this. So I'm just saying, like, if we're trying to find 9 5 years later, The Counselor shouldn't be in there. But the other 4 we mentioned, The Conjuring, Before Midnight, Francis Ha, Inside Llewyn Davis, bumping Philomena, Nebraska, Captain Phillips and American Hustle. Like, I'm okay with that trade.
Right. Francis Ha would have been really, really surprising, but would it really have been any more surprising than something like Beast of the Southern Wild getting nominated?
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes a small movie comes along and then they just recognize it, so that wouldn't have been crazy to me.
Let's take a quick break and we'll get back to this. The new Microsoft Surface Pro 6 can help you get things done whether you're on the field or running a business. Take Brian Arakpo and Michael Griffin, 2 former NFL teammates who have opened a cupcake shop. With the Surface Pro, they can do everything they need, from setting schedules to creating promotions for social media and designing new flavors. Plus, it's light, super fast, has a great battery life. Brian and Michael are proving you can tackle all your passions with the power and speed of the new Surface Pro 6. Inside Llewyn Davis, you want to make the case, Chris? Quick.
This is a movie that is like Coen Brothers movies now basically follow a cycle for me where the trailer is amazing and I can't wait to see it. Then the first time I see it, I'm like, huh. And then like the second or third time I see it, I was like, oh, that's probably one of the best movies I've seen in the last 5 years. And that happened with Hail Caesar, and it happened with Inside Llewyn Davis, and it's happening with Buster Scruggs. So I just think that they don't make movies, with the exception of No Country for Old Men, that are optimized for obviously a very important film that will be celebrated at the Oscars. Also, their kind of cynicism about award season probably doesn't help. You know, they're kind of like being like, cool, thanks, is sort of
I like that about him.
I love that about them.
It's funny that they got 3 nominations this year, just almost without even trying.
I know.
So Best Picture 5 years later is?
I think 12 Years a Slave is the great achievement. And it also feels like the right Oscar pick. But I certainly could hear the case for Gravity.
Oh, I think it's Wolf of Wall Street. Pretty easily. For me. Yeah.
I still go with 12 Years a Slave.
I
thought that movie was really, really hit me.
When we do this
It
pod,
was just really well done and just took me into a world, and it said something and I thought it meant something.
I think
I'm okay with it still.
It kind of balances all of the things that at least the Academy wants. Maybe not what I want specifically, but it wants a meaningful story. It often wants a period piece. It wants something that feels true. It wants an extraordinary performance at the center of it. It wants supporting players who sort of like scare you and shock you and impress you. You know, every single supporting actor that's in that movie is doing impressive stuff. It's got vision. You know, Steve McQueen is a real artist. And
that was the other thing I liked about it, is that it was one of those movies where you're watching and you're like, this guy's going to be in my life for 35 years.
Definitely. I
think that matters.
When we do this 5 years from now, there probably will be a weird and interesting conversation about Widows, which is pretty much completely overlooked.
Yep.
And it's fascinating.
That movie. I like that. I need to see it again. What'd you think, Kyle? Did you see it?
Nope.
You'd like it.
Okay.
Okay.
One of the problems is a lot of dudes like Kyle who would dig Widows just didn't see Widows.
Did you not know it was like
but
out,
they'll
or were
rent
you
it
just
when
like,
it's out.
That's what I mean.
Right now, I still have never heard of it.
There you go.
So Wolf of Wall Street for me, just too long. I think it's too big of a flaw for me to overcome mentally.
Okay.
And I don't think it was enough to take the 12 Years a Slave.
Where does it sit on your
crown.
all-time Scorsese list? Is it in the top 10?
It's not in
Give
the
me a
top
sec.
5 for me.
It's definitely not in the top 5.
Can we do this as a podcast on Big Picture?
Top 5
Let's do it in
Scorsese.
March.
The
Top
best
5
Scorseses?
Scorsese.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to
all
wait
right.
for The Irishman to come out when he has a new movie in the fall?
I'm worried about that one. Best Actor. McConaughey won. DiCaprio was nominated. Bruce Dern nominated for Nebraska. He's actually good in that movie.
Mhm.
It's the only good thing about it. Christian Bale at American Hustle. And 12 Years a Slave. I'm going to mangle it. You know I have pronunciation dyslexia.
Chiwetel
Ejiofor.
Ejiofor.
Thank you. Those were the 5. I just feel like looking back, DiCaprio should have won.
Yes.
He's like fucking awesome in that movie. He's really great.
He's like Bo Jackson in this movie.
He's fucking
it's incredible.
It's kind of amazing that he didn't win. And I don't know what happened. And I feel like we had a pop culture sports website at the time, Grantland. Maybe we wouldn't have a huge influence, but I wish we had just gone deeper on why isn't Leo the best actor?
Also, this is a performance that has lived on since then. It is like just constantly referenced. Like you always see like memes of him throwing the orange juice or throwing money at Kyle Chandler.
check.
Yeah, it's an incredible performance.
This is one of my confusions about the Rami Malek thing this year is why are we giving Rami Malek an Oscar for his first movie? We literally made Leonardo DiCaprio wait 20 years.
Yeah.
And make 15 movies that we all agree are great and were big hits and also prestigious. And we're like, not yet. Keep waiting.
Listen,
waiting.
fake teeth and lip syncing go a long way.
Yeah.
Best Actress. This is one of, apologies to the nominees, but really one of the least memorable categories I think has ever been in this. Amy Adams at American Hustle. Blue Jasmine won, Cate Blanchett. Judi Dench for Philomena. Meryl Streep for August Osage County. I don't even think Meryl Streep liked that movie. And then
one of the great American plays.
It's not a great film, though.
I mean, it is just
It's pretty rough.
I would love to know the percentage of people who fell asleep watching the
That was
screener of that movie.
That was
an
an incredible play that got a brutal cast. That was like, let's get Benedict Cumberbatch in this movie.
Oh,
it was
gosh.
just like a really bad look.
And then Sandra Bullock for Gravity. I think looking back at this, Blue Jasmine was pretty good. I don't know. I don't even really care. This category leaves me cold.
It's the same thing. It's just Cate Blanchett probably should have won 7 or 8
I'm
years
fine with
earlier.
it.
It's
I
a
like
really
Cate
good
Blanchett.
performance.
This is also, in retrospect, Delpy and Gerwig should be in this category.
Yeah.
So, like, if you put Julie Delpy and Greta
Great point.
Gerwig in the category, it becomes a much more interesting competition.
And even Vera Farmiga, I would consider.
Yeah.
Meryl Streep was just the blind check mark of Meryl Streep.
To some
'cause
extent,
she's Meryl
Dench is
Streep.
too. I mean, I think Dench is it's like one of the great actresses, but like I don't really know that I can tell the difference between one Judi Dench performance and another over the last 10 years.
I think it's also a good Sandra Bullock performance. You know,
Yeah.
she's alone.
She was the other one
There's
I
a
would
lot
have
of
gone.
physical challenges.
You know,
to
I
doing
love
a
when
part
people are
like
alone
that.
in movies. So
Yeah.
it's like Damon in The Martian.
Yeah, that's
really hard to pull that off.
I agree. I feel like people not being able to play off somebody is a challenge in acting, and also like the green screen stuff that she had to do and wearing a suit the whole time, not being able to see that face as clearly as you do. She's so expressive. I don't know. It's a pretty good one.
You know my Amy Adams take. It's my least favorite take of yours.
What is your Amy Adams take?
That she's the Alex Smith of famous actresses.
I did not know that was
She's
your
fine.
take.
She's fine. You can totally make the first round with her.
She doesn't make bad stuff.
She doesn't make bad stuff.
She
wins.
almost never in a movie. That
Look
you
at
think
her
is bad.
win-loss record. She's got a great win-loss record.
Yeah,
You know what? I'm not winning the Super Bowl with
I'm
her.
a fan.
I know
I'm
you
a
are.
big
Huge fan.
Yeah.
Especially after
Sorry,
I think
guys.
Arrival changed that for me too. Like
Yeah,
where I
I'm
was
not
like,
here to
oh,
make
yeah.
friends.
Okay. With Amy
Supporting
Adams.
actor is egregious. This is the one, like looking back, I was like, what? Captain Phillips, that guy.
Barkhad Abdi.
Bradley Cooper in American Hustle. Fassbender in 12 Years a Slave, which would, if we did the rewatchables of 12 Years a Slave, which we're probably not doing.
We're not doing that.
But he what's the award we have for the overactor?
the Dion/Dino Waiters award.
No, not Deion Waiters. The
the Rubinek. Yeah,
the Saul Rubinek they knew. That's
Yeah.
Fassbender in that movie. Jared Leto won for Dallas Buyers Club, which is egregious. And then Jonah Hill didn't win for Wolf of Wall Street, which I think as the years pass is outrageous.
20 years from now, when he's got 4 or 5 nominations and hasn't won, we'll be like, that's the one he should have won for.
Terrible.
I'd like to throw Brad Pitt from Counselor in this category.
Wow.
Oh, interesting.
That would be the one that I would add.
Brad Pitt over Bardem.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brad Pitt has like 2 amazing monologues and then a disgusting death.
I liked your point. I liked your call how Julie Delpy could have gotten nominated for Best Actress. She didn't get nominated for any of those 3 movies, and she's like
It's a crime.
indelible in those movies.
She is.
Like, who else is even
She has
playing
been
that?
nominated for screenplay for those movies.
I
though.
love her. Supporting actress, Lupita Nyong'o won for 12 Years a Slave. The other, Sally Hawkins, Blue Jasmine. Jennifer Lawrence, American Hustle. Julia Roberts, August and Osage. They had 2 nominees. And then Jane Squibb in Nebraska.
June.
That's also I'm sorry, June Squibb. That's a bad category. I'm okay with how it ended up. Director, Alfonso Cuarón, Gravity. He won.
He did win. He's going to win
Steve
again.
McQueen, 12 Years a Slave, did not win.
Tough.
Alexander Payne, Nebraska, stop it. David O. Russell, American Hustle, adorable. And Scorsese, Wolf of Wall Street. The top 3 in that category is pretty good.
McQueen, Cuarón, and
Scorsese, yeah. It's pretty good.
Could have gone in any direction. I mean, Scorsese had won recently for The Departed.
Yeah.
So he wasn't going to win there.
I thought Gravity was a real achievement with I was constantly confused by how they were doing
Did
it.
Chivo shoot that?
He did. There's a really fascinating New York Magazine story that ran by a guy named Dan P. Lee about a month before the movie came out that explains how Cuarón and Chivo conceived the whole movie. That gives you incredible insight into the way that they figured out what kind of movie they wanted to make. Making space movies is really hard.
Yeah.
There's a space movie coming out in May that Chris and I are psyched about, starring Brad Pitt, called Ad Astra, that I'm hoping is going to kind of challenge the Gravity 2001 Hall of Fame for these kinds of movies.
So what would you go with 5 years later? McQueen or Cuarón? Cuarón.
It's Cuarón.
Cuarón.
I
have pronunciation dyslexia.
It's honestly a coin flip. Like, I don't have a
No,
preference.
you can't. It can't be a coin flip. Make a pick.
This
I'm
was the
fine
night
with how it went. I'm good with how it went.
Me too.
Despite like the amount of Osage County that we had this night, I actually walked away from this Oscars night being like, cool. Like that.
Yeah.
That's like a very nice distribution of awards. I think that
Leo losing to McConaughey was
yes,
bad, though.
but I think that Cuarón winning and 12 Years a Slave winning is like best possible outcome.
There was not a lot of outcry about this one. It was not controversial.
Best animated was The Croods, Despicable Me 2, Ernest and Celestine. I don't even know what that is. Frozen, The Wind Rises. Kyle, you okay with Frozen for that one?
I never saw Frozen.
Okay.
I've never seen any of these movies.
Solo rewatchables. Kyle watches Frozen.
Kyle's upset because I told him he can't jewel during the podcast anymore because I don't like secondhand jewel
I've
smoke.
never seen Kyle jewel
No,
during
he
a
secretly
podcast.
jewels.
It's secret, exactly.
And then I
Nobody knows.
Googled secondhand jewel smoke, and it's a thing.
You
And
Google
some people
something
get
like that,
headaches.
You're going to get exactly what you want.
No, I didn't. Take your jeweling outside.
I will.
Yeah, weird year. I'm going to give this year like a C-. All
Oh, I think it's like a B. It's a B.
right, I'll raise it to a C+.
Okay.
Where would you rank it compared to this year so far? Right before the awards.
Probably pretty close.
This year, even though there are a bunch of good movies that are nominated, is an F-. No question. This is the messiest, most annoying Oscars year in recent memory. I'm amazed by it. It's exasperating.
I think we felt this way 5 years ago about this group of movies, though.
But Gravity and 12 Years a Slave were such no-brainer, classic, great Oscar movies. Only The Wolf of Wall Street was the one that, like, we're looking back and we're like, they kind of didn't do right by this. So few movies did we not do right by.
All right. Chris Ryan, Sean Fennessey. Big picture. We should mention live. Both of you guys are going to be live Sunday.
Yes.
Not together, though.
Not together.
You have the
Sadly.
True Detective season finale, The Flat Circle, which we'll be doing on YouTube and on Twitter on our Ringer accounts. And then Sean and Amanda Dobbins post Oscars show. There's really no post-game shows for the Oscars, so we're going to do one.
We got one.
And hopefully there's some weird shit going on. So we'll see how that goes. Good luck, fellas.
Thanks, Bill.
All right. Thanks to Sean and Chris and Mallory and Kevin Clark and nephew Kyle for not jeweling. Thanks to ZipRecruiter. Don't forget to go to ZipRecruiter.com/BS. Thanks to Hotel Tonight. They make it easy to book awesome hotels at amazing rates, like a matchmaker between top-rated hotels with unsold rooms and people who want to book those rooms. Hotel Tonight, not for last-minute bookings. Book for tonight, tomorrow, and beyond. Perfect for planners, procrastinators, everyone in between. Sweet deals, cool hotels that you would actually want to stay in. Go to hoteltonight.com or download the app. Today, if you missed the rewatchables, we did Dave this week. We have Reality Bites coming next week. I have 3 podcasts coming next week, and I will see you then.